Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Waladija, and as promised, this is my first episode in my three-part series of trying to bring us all out of that noodle code stage and into the intermediate to advanced level stages. Right? This is the push that you will need that and it will greatly help you. In my series, we're going to be looking at context API, custom hooks, and then lastly, in the last episode, we're going to be combining the two to make an OP use auth custom hook. It's going to be insane. I'm really excited. But in this episode, I will teach you context API, and we're going to do that by making a counter. And I know, boring, come on, counter, really? My job, well, what I'm trying to do is teach you not to, well, teach you basically and not handhold you the entire way. And this is the best way to do it efficiently and fast. Show you the bare bones of what you need to do, right? To be able to do this on your own in your own project. But anyways, my first method that I will implement the counter is using prop drilling. And I will show you why, and that is to show you why it is so bad. Why it is like if you do it, you will get fired. Your boss will not be in your bed, right? He will not be happy with you. And your wife will leave you. A second method will be the better method using context API. And in that second method, I will show you how context API fixes or a state management system fixes the prop drilling problem. And then my third one, we will take it a step further and completely refine our context API code and make it even more scalable, even more efficient. It's going to be insane. I'm really excited. Let's get right into it. Okay, guys. So first of all, we need to look at what even is context API, right? And I'm going to give you a nerd explanation, something only a bookworm can say to you, and then I'm going to explain it to you in vivid details that you will be able to comprehend if you have an IQ greater than 2. If yours is lower than that, I apologize, this is not the video for you. But anyways, context API. Let's see what it is. We go to the React.js docs. What do they say? In a typical React application, data is passed down parent to child via props. Via props. But such usage can be cumbersome for certain types of props, UI themes, blah, 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 that are required by many components within an application. Context provides a way to share values like these between components without having to explicitly pass a prop through every level of the tree. Now, if this was 3 months ago, I would have been like, yo, what does this say? Only a nerd could have written this. In hindsight, now that I'm reading it, it makes complete sense, and like this is a really good explanation. But that's the nerd explanation, right? Let's go back down to my stupid explanation for the not stupid explanation, the best explanation, right? So we have an app. We have one component, right? Let's make another component 1, right? And then we have another one past that, and then we have another one past that, right? I'm not gonna rename them, but anyways. So this component is inside app, right? These components are not inside app. This one is inside this one. This one, this is really this is why naming conventions are good. But anyways, and this one component is inside this one, right? They're not directly linked. This one's not here. This one's not here, right? So if we want to give value to this prop or this component down here, that we would have to initialize it in app, and we would have to pass it down to this one and as a prop, and then we would have to pass it from here to the second component, and then from there to this last component finally where we can use it. This is the definition of prop drilling. You're passing down props, right? You're passing it down here even though this doesn't need it, and then you're passing it down here because even though this doesn't need it, and then you're passing it down here even though this one needs it. But that is what prop drilling is. Now, what is context API? Context API is like a state management. It is not a state manager. There are different, like Redux is a state manager, context API is not, but it acts like one, right? We have context API and it makes like a separate box memory, think of it like outside, right? Completely away from the components. That's called context. Let me just abbreviate it. Context, right? And what this does is if I want a value here, I can literally, the context will take it there, right? I won't have to pass it down any of these. It's just gonna, if I want that value here, bang, right? If I want it here, bang. All of these, all of them have access to context at any point. And you can have multiple contexts, right? You can make multiple of them, and then they can all be used wherever you need them without passing down props. That is the best explanation I can give you. Okay, now we're going to implement a counter, and first method is prop drilling. All right, everyone. Now we're actually going to go down and write some code. The moment you've been waiting for. Okay, so we're just going to make a white app. Why white? Because it's faster than create React app. Create white awaits latest. Okay, I'm just gonna call this counter. You can call it whatever. I'm going to be using React, and I'm going to be using React Typescript. You can use React JavaScript and still follow along, no problem. Okay, cd counter. Open it up in code, VS Code. We're going to npm I and npm run dev. Cool, that's going to open it up over here. All right. Nice. Okay, now we are going to clean this out. We don't need this. Okay, and all this code. And since we're going to be using Tailwind, we don't need this. And I like to turn them into arrow functions. That's just, you don't have to do this. It's just a thing I do. And then take this out. Const app. Oh, yep. Okay. Cool. Let's see if it works. Nice. Okay, let's install Tailwind. You go. So basically, you get started. Framework guides, whatever framework you're in. Just gonna pick Wheat. And then you don't have to know what this does, just know that you need it to install. Okay, install that. And then this command is the important one. It's going to install 2 files over here, as you can see. And then you're going to copy this and just paste it into here, this file. this is going to allow you to use Tailwind, and you're just gonna import these into your CSS file, index.css, and make sure index.css is inside main over here, and then turn off your server and then start again, and we should be good to go. If I come here and then say class name padding 2, nice. Okay, so I'm going to, unlike other YouTubers that always post in like all their code in one file to save time, I'll actually show you my folder structure that I use. So the first thing I would do is make a component and components, and then folder, and then a pages folder, pages like home and all the other pages. So in this I will say home.tsx rafc, and that's my home page basically here. We haven't routed that yet, but we will. And then I would also, we don't need it for this project because it's a small project, so not many folders, but I will create an index folder for every index file for every folder, and put all my exports there so that we can, all our imports are very organized. So home from not home, but so what this allows us to do is go to app, import home from components or pages, not home index. So what this allows you to do is, if you have multiple pages, you can export them from index.ts, so that you can line them up all here, right? You wouldn't have to do this, which looks very unorganized and nasty if you have lots of files. All right, let's install npm I react router DOM. Okay, cool. And I would go here, import browser router as router from react router DOM. Get this router, surrounded from my app, wrap it around, cool, and then come back here, import route from react router DOM. Okay, and I'm kind of speeding through this because I expect you all to already know this if I haven't said that before. Path equals, okay, home, and element equals home. Cool. So as you can see, home shows up, is correctly routed. And then I would go into components, make a new file, display counter.tsx rafc. Okay, and then same deal with the index because it's a new folder. Export display counter from, cool. Okay, and for the purpose of my first method, which is to show prop drilling excuse me, And to do that, I will just come here and make a new state const counter set counter equals use state, and initial variable value I'm just going to put 1. Right, it's going to start at 1, our count. And then in home I'm just going to pass it down as a prop. Counter equals counter set counter equals. If you see this underline, it's just because we haven't brought in our prop in home yet. So we have to create an interface. This is TypeScript. If you're using JavaScript, you don't have to do this. Props, okay. And then we're gonna do counter, which is going to be number, and then set counter, which is going to be react dot dispatch react dot set state action, and this is going to be a number. Cool. And then we bring in our props, counter set counter and props. Cool. So now we have brought in our props, and now here people will be like, okay, you can just display it here, doesn't matter, blah blah blah, you don't have to pass down props even more. Well, for the purpose of this build, like I said, I will just do that. So we're gonna import display counter from components index. Cool. And then just pass it down one more time, right? Set counter equals set counter. Cool. And then I'll just copy this, paste it here, same thing. Nice. Okay, and now I'm going to actually do the code or the styling and everything. So first of all, we're going to have a h1. We're just gonna say counter, and there we go, our first value popped up. See, our initial value, I mean. And I'm gonna have a button, and in the button I'm going to say increment. Okay, class name equals, we're just gonna say, let's see, padding 3, I'm just guessing here, padding x6. Okay, and then let's make the background gray 300 rounded. Okay, nice. Okay, let's come here, class name max width 3xl. Oops, max width 3xl. Okay, and then mx auto to center space y4 padding 2. Okay, so that makes our app look like this, right? I could have just kept it here, but you know, it's fine, whatever. Okay, so let's actually increment when we press this button. Let's see, on click set counter, the previous state, you can say previous value, I just say previous state because that's just what I do. plus 1 DA. Nice. And there we go, it works. Fine, right? It works completely fine. Well, yes, it works, but look how unorganized noodle code this is, right? We're passing down prop state from to our home page from the app, right? And home page doesn't even need it, but app does not have a direct link to display counter. It can only get to display counter through home. So whatever state we have here, we can only give access to it to display counter by passing it through home. Home doesn't has no use for it. We're not using counter here anywhere, right? Like we're not using it. So this is called prop drilling, right? This is bad practice. If you have at work, if you have hundreds of components, hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and you're prop drilling, bro, your boss is going to fire you faster than your dad left. It's insane, right? How bad it is. It doesn't seem as bad with the smaller code. But anyways, in my next method, I will show you how we can completely eradicate this problem and have super organized, crispy code, right? We're going to refactor our code and use context API. So the first thing I do is I make uh, a context folder. Oh, well, why am I spelling folder? Silly me. Okay, and then I'm going to do a new file, and I'm going to say counter context.tsx. Alright, so on that, and then import create context from React, and then we are going to create an interface. If you're using JavaScript, you do not need to do that. Props, and then we're going to have a counter value that is going to be a number, and then we're going to have a increment counter that is going to be a function that returns void, and then we're going to have a decrement counter, and then it's going to return the same thing, it's a function, and then we're going to have reset counter. All right, and then we're going to export, and we're gonna create. So we imported create context, right? That's how you, and that's what you use to create your context. So we're gonna give it a value or a name. So this is going to be a counter context. You can have multiple contexts, and you can, like, a sidebar context, use auth context, you know, whatever, right? Counter context equals create context, and then we're gonna give it, because of Typescript, we're gonna give it values. Counter. I believe if you're using JavaScript, you don't need to do this. You can just give it null or something. Counter. We're gonna give it an initial value of 1. Increment counter is going to be basically a function. Decrement counter and reset counter is the same thing. All right, now there's some errors, but that's because of Typescript, and it's just saying you haven't used it basically. So next we're going to go into our app.tsx, right? And we're going to keep this, and then we're going to do const, well, let me import on the context, import context counter context, and you can wrap it around. So we want to give it access, visibility is what we call it. We want to, whatever variables we pass it, we want those, whatever variables we want to allow globally, see globally, we're gonna pass them, we're gonna wrap it around those components. If we do it here and we only wrap it around certain components, it's only gonna be visible in those components. If you go into app or main.tx and you wrap around your entire app, it's available globally no matter where, right? And this is what I usually do, but in this case I'm just gonna do it here, right? Counter context, we're gonna wrap it, right? But we're gonna give it a provider, right? That's, and then we have wrapped everything around it. Okay, and then this is red because we need to create context or context. Our provider has, you have to give it a value, and double brackets, don't forget that. All right, now we're gonna pass in values that are gonna be visible anywhere. Well, any of the components that are inside, and home is the component that's inside. Okay, so we're going to say, let's see, const increment counter equals. So when we're gonna set counter, so when the user presses increment counter, we're gonna set, as before, prev state equals arrow function or arrow to prev state plus 1. All right, that's how you increment. How you decrement counter, you just subtract 1, right? And then const let's see, reset counter, you're just going to set it back to its initial value, which in our case is 1. Okay, look at this great hinting that Typescript gives us because we gave it types over here, props. Well, we forgot to pass props here. Okay, now look at this great hinting. Increment counter, look at that. It already knows. Decrement counter, reset counter. It already knows. Why? Because we passed it here. Now it is saying something is off. What is off about this? Let's see. Increment DECRE counter. Why is it angry? Oh, I know. Because we passed counter here, but we didn't pass it here. See, look at that. Typescript coming in clutch, and error is gone. Look at that. App is back. Why is this mad? Oh, oops. Because we're initializing values, I needed commas there. Typescript is just amazing. Look at that. Okay, so we have created our values that we want to pass in, and now we don't need to pass down props. We can take this out, We can go to home. We can take this out. Don't need that. Don't need this. Don't need to pass props. Take this out. And take these props out. Alright, now that's mad because we have props here. Take these props out. We don't need this interface anymore. And now here's the magic. Const equals use context. So this is how you import like whatever context you created to use it, the user values. Use context, and you pass it whatever the context was. In our case, it was counter context. It just automatically imports. Now we have counter. Look at these hinting. Look at that hinting. Counter. Increment counter. Decrement counter. Reset counter. All right. Now we can take this out because we have a function for it. On click increment counter, right? And then we're going to what is it called? My mind is running blank. Oh, we're going to make a new button, same thing basically, call decrement and decrement counter, and then reset counter. Okay, let's give it a little bit of styling, you know. Let's see. Space 4, yes. Div, let's do that. Class name max width to the text 60px. So if you don't know in Tailwind, that's how you give it your own values instead of the default they provide. Flex, IC, JC. Well, I'm going to do JStart. Okay. We're going to give this styling 3, background gray 300. I think it's the same thing as that. Rounded mid. Yup. Okay. Normally these would go into their own variables so that we can just call those variables, but I'm too lazy to do that right now. Okay, now we just need to give space to our buttons. So let's just wrap them in a div. Okay, class name. We're gonna give it space x4, and now that's gonna give us spacing. Okay, cool. Now, let me click. Yo, what? That's insane. Increment, decrement, without passing any props. Look at that. Interesting. Now, this goes into the negatives, but that's an easy fix. You can go back to app.tsx, where you decrement, you're basically like, okay, if counter is greater than 1 or initial value, whatever it is, then set counter, then only then you can decrease. Okay, so let's go back. All right, can't go under 1 now. Nice. And then reset works. Nice. With with context. Now this was how I used to do context. I don't do this and use this anymore because of the better, more scalable code that I will show you in our third method, the best method. After I show you that, you will never go back to using context like this, because the problem is we're cluttering our app, right? We're just cluttering it with this code. And if you have multiple contexts, they're all gonna be an app just stacked, and then you're gonna pass all these variables. It's gonna look super messy. It's gonna look disgusting. So we're going to clean it up a lot. Anyways, I'll see you then. Alright guys, now on to the final method where we're going to be refactoring the context API code that we wrote in the second method, and we're going to make it crisp, right? Like your mother's cooking crisp, your grandma's cooking crisp, your boss kissing you on the forehead crisp, right? Like very, very clean. All right, so we're going to add another file under context. Well, we're going to create a folder, counter context, because if you have multiple contexts, you can you're gonna have folders for them, and then you're gonna have files for under each one of them, right? Okay, and then you're going to, okay, nice, and then another file called counter context provider.tsx refc. Nice. Okay, let's go. Okay, what is this angry about? Oh, because we changed our files. What is this? Import display count. Oh, we didn't save this. All right, so we're going to do this by let's see, importing what we made over here, counter context. Let's import it, and then we're going to bring all, or first of all, we're going to create an interface. If you're using JavaScript, again, you don't need to do this, where you're going to do children react node. Just memorize that, like if children react node. That's all you need to know. Now children is a keyword. You do not need to initialize it, like const is a keyword. Children is also a keyword, right? Okay, so if this, well, let me give an example. Okay, so this, like if children is this, well, this is like a really bad example, but if this is a component, this is a component, well, it's like a wrapper basically. The middle, the values inside over here are the children, right? So that's what that is. But anyways, we're going to say counter context. Over here we're going to, instead of a div, we're not going to return a div, we're going to return counter context dot provider. All right, and we're gonna give it, we're gonna do children, right? This is going to make sense in a little bit, I promise you. Value equals, there we go. Okay, so just like before, right? We're going to go into our main or app.tsx, get all this code, and we're going to bring it here, right? Let's import state. Okay, and then we're going to take a value and rip it out of here. Okay, we're gonna come back to that error in a little bit. Cool. All right, so we kind of had the same thing. We had an app, instead we're returning this provider, right? Okay, and then we don't need this, and then we're gonna say context, let's counter context. We're gonna import that provider. There we go. We don't need this. We don't need that. There we go. Now look how clean this looks, right? Look at that. So this is how the best way to, like, we're done, right? That was it. You pass children, you wrap context provider, you return context provider in this function, right? You bring all that code in and watch this. Increment, decrement, reset. It works. And it's beautiful code. Main is or app is completely clean, crisp, right? You can bring, like I was saying before, you can bring this over here. This is what I usually do in my main, and then right, and then this is giving error because it's saying, well, first of all, I need to import it, but it's not giving error. But uh, app is going to be the children. So remember the thing I was talking about, the children. So it's between provider, right? It's between this. This is the children, right? And what the children is, it's a substitute for this code in main app. Our entire app, that is the children, right? And that's why that works. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. It's very easy to implement, right? Okay, now we can update this even more by having a use reducer imported from React and just using reduce user or use reducer, my fault, and cleaning this up even more. But I'm not going to do that. If you want me to do that in the next video, just let me know. I'm completely down to do that, but I see no reason because this code works, right? Beautiful, clean, crisp. Anyways, guys, this is it from part 1 of our series of learning context API. Let me know in the comments what you learned, if you learned anything, what I can improve this. How can I improve this even more? If you guys know, I mean, I'm really interested to know. Anyways, hit the like button if you like the video, hit the subscribe button if you really like the video, and I'll see you in part 2, which will be coming out in a couple of days. Goodbye.